was there, in the void between worlds, where the seeds of creation swirled before my eyes.
Greetings, exiles. Welcome to my first video. Today's video, we're gonna go over the funnest build I've played this league, and that is Archmage Hierophant. Archmage Hierophant. Archmage Hierophant. Welcome guys to my first video. I hope you guys enjoyed this showcase and you enjoyed that gameplay at the beginning. Just so you guys know I didn't showcase all the endgame bosses slash all the Ubers. I will talk about that as to why I didn't show everything off, and I will definitely have more gameplay throughout the video during the slow parts, so if you did enjoy the gameplay, you're going to see more. Welcome to the 3.25 Wretched Defiled Pathfinder Doryani. I got this build from Ways Motion. I saw it on YouTube. Actually, a funny backstory. I was in a six-way carry. I was in a six-way challenge completion for the one of those unique maps, the 10-div unique map that you needed for your challenges, and I saw a guy, a Pathfinder, with a bunch of Spectres around him, these Wretched Defilers, and I was like, what build is that? I saw him sniping, and it reminded me of back in the day when Gazi played a type of like sniper machine gun Spectre build, and honestly it intrigued me, so I decided to look into it. I found Ways Motion's video and I pretty much copied his build but added a few touches to it, and I was like, this is my final build of the league. I might as well go crazy and just see what I can put together, and this is what I have, so let's go over it. This build revolves around Doriyanis. If you guys don't know Doriyanis prototype, it is a body armor that, as you can see the last two lines, armor also applies to lightning damage taken from hits. Lightning damage does not affect lightning damage taken. Nearby enemies have lightning resistance equal to yours. So that's the whole point of this build, is to get as low lightning resistance as possible and standing next to enemies while your minions or specters do all the work. We'll get into that a bit later, but that is the premise of this build. You are pretty much the trigger to lower your enemies elemental resistance, is specifically lightning resistance, and your specters just kill while you just chill. It's a bit of a brain dead build, but honestly it is pretty damn fun. For defenses, we have maxed 90% res cap for fire and lightning, and because we're getting lightning damage taken as fire damage, we're pretty much res capped for lightning damage as well. We have about 81% chance to reduce physical damage, 26,000 max armor, we're chaos capped, we're block capped, we're where is it, spell suppressed, and we are ailment immune. So this build is a giga beast when it comes to hits and tankiness. It can do a lot of juice content. Honestly, probably the biggest part about this build is to be able to, for your computer not to lag you out, because it can get a bit crazy when you're doing T16s, 8 mod, Harbinger, Delhi, Beyond, and these Spectres are just firing off like crazy. It gets a little bit insane. So it is a bit of a brain dead playstyle. You only have to press your mana flask, and occasionally you shield charge, and I have a focus skill which I'll get into in a bit, but you barely press any buttons, and that's what I wanted for my final build, just to grind out my final few challenges. Does this build die? Yes, it does die. It has two huge weaknesses that are pretty hard to overcome, and honestly there's a few things one thing you can do to help you with it, but mana siphoners, those damn unique rare mods that spawn with the giant mana rings around them, that if you stand in them it drains your mana, and it does lightning damage over time. Because it's lightning damage over time and not lightning damage from a hit, it's not a hit, it's just draining you, it melts you in like 2 seconds. So you have to get out of that as fast as you can, or you die. And same with Seer's Degens. I tested Uber Seer's on this build to try to showcase for you guys. I can show you some gameplay. He melts in every single part of it, but once you get him into his fuse state and he has all those ground degens, my god, does it absolutely destroy you. So anything with ground degens, aka Uber Seer's, and you just have to watch out for those mana siphoners. Besides that, it's an overall insanely tanky build and really fun in my opinion, and I'm not a minion type of guy. So let's jump into the gear. Starting with unique gear first. We'll go through all the unique gears, and then we're going to go through all the rare gear, and I'll show you how I crafted every single piece of the gear. And there's also going to be timestamps throughout the video, so if you only care for specific parts, feel free to skip ahead. Starting with the most important, the chest piece, guys. So chest piece is Doryani's prototype. The best in slot you could get on this chest piece would be +2 socketed minion gems. It is about 30 div last time I checked, which is, if it's your end game build, it's not too bad. You can also buy Doryani's prototype for like 30 to 50 C and then try to double corrupt. That's what I did. I bought 3 and I double corrupted and I actually hit +1 and 45% increased damage, and I settled. But I could sell this for a lot, honestly, because all the Lightning Strike Slayer builds are playing Doryani's prototype, so this could actually sell for a lot, but I decided to stick with it and use it. So best in slot for this would be +2 socketed minion gems. You could start off with just a base, a basic one, or a +1. A +1 actually goes for around 7 div at the moment, so you could settle for a +1 to all socketed gems. Even if it's corrupted, you guys know there's something called tainted currency. Very easy to 6-link anything corrupted, so I suggest you buy something with a nice base corrupted and 6-link it yourself. Next, let's take a look at the helmet. The helmet is the most basic piece of the gear, the cheapest piece of gear. It'll cost you around 40 C for the +2 to all minion spell skill gems. This helmet is a must, can't be replaced. It has to be this helmet because it gives you +1 to Spectres for every socketed ghastly eye gem you have. And as you can see, we have 4 socketed ghastly eye jewels in our helmet, so we can have an additional +4 Spectres, and you want 8 total. So this the best option and the only option, irreplaceable. Next in the build we have the Slavin, I always pronounce this wrong, but you guys know what I'm talking about. This is the best shield in the game right now. It is so busted, and I believe next league it's either going to be nerfed to oblivion because every damn build is using this, or it's going to be a T0 unique and super rare to drop, because the fact that it has a whole ascendancy from Glad on a shield is insane. So chance to block is lucky, plus it gives you a little bit of spell gem, block spell gem chance, and a bit of ward, plus in some builds can capitalize off the trigger sockets elemental spell skills on block. This build does not, but it is still one of the best, if not the best, in slot shield that you can have. And you want this with +2 AoE gems specifically for Purity of Fire, because it'll give you Purity of Fire up to level 24, and having it at level 24 or 23 I believe is one of them. I think it's 23 actually, so 24 is a bit of an overkill, but still better 23 24 than anything under, because it gives you +5 to additional max fire res, which will help you cap at 90 with a couple other pieces of the build. So make sure you get this with +2 AoE. I got mine for 6 div. And it was because it was 13. If you get it with 10% chance to block spell damage, you could get this for around 3 to 4 divines. Next is the Amulet. The Amulet is Eyes of the Great Wolf. You can also replace this with a Talisman, but I just went with the easier route with the Great Wolf. I did that because it has the line 100% of lightning damage from hits taken as fire damage. Why is this important? Because we have minus 180 negative lightning res. We will die from any lightning hits. Makes sense. So what we do with this is anything we get hit by lightning will automatically be converted to fire, and our fire res is 90%. So we're pretty much 90% lightning res from hits, not from ground ailments, but from hits. So this is a must. The other implicit is determines on you. I got this for 4 div. It was the cheapest one you could get, but you can get one with like global defenses for like 20 or 30 div, which is a lot better for your character, as 58% increased damage doesn't do much because you're not really doing any damage. It is mostly your minions doing damage, and it doesn't apply to your minions. So only that lightning damage mod is working right now, but if you wanted to budget higher and spend more, you could go for a second good implicit, something defenses for your character, or like regen for your character is also a good one. Of course, the enchant is going to be, or the anoint is going to be Death Attunement for the extra Spectre, because we want 8 Spectres. The next and final unique piece of gear is Tides of Time Vanguard Belt. I've seen a few people replace this on PoE Ninja with Mage Blood. I wouldn't recommend it. This is a cheap belt, and it is so many great benefits. You have your flask up all the time with it, and it also gives you 25% increase, similar to what Mage Blood would give you. And it is just a fantastic in-slot, especially for 3 div. It really can't be beat when it comes to any Pathfinder build where you're depending heavily on your flasks. It is fantastic. So I'd recommend getting a +3/+3. The mana is irrelevant. If you wanted to get +2/+3 for utilities, making sure utilities is +3, so you can always have your fire res flasks up and your block flasks, and we'll go into flasks after. It is important, so make sure it's at least +2/+3, or +3/+3 would be your best option, and you can pick this up for 3 to 4 div. So next we'll talk about flasks. Flasks are simple. You want a life flask that has grants a certain number of life recovery to minions. This is tier 1. I would recommend T2 or higher because it gives your minions a lot of life recovery, and the whole build revolves around your minions staying alive, so it's important to heal them. And also 47% increase amount recovered and reduce recovery rate, so they'll recover over time slower, but I only rolled tier 4, but I was happy with the tier 1, so I settled. Next we have the Granite Flask Rumi's Concoction. This one is almost perfect. Roll 12 and 5. You slap it on with use when charges are full, and you'll always have an extra little block chance. Plus you're getting a 25% boost from your belt, so it is a fantastic option. Progenesis is not mandatory. You can replace this with an Amethyst Flask to help your Chaos res, and a secondary mod like you could do block, you can do curse, you can do whatever your build needs to survive. You can do regen through a craft, but because it was only 30 div this league for this beauty, and it really helps with your tankiness, I picked up a Progenesis, and I couldn't be happier. This one's really important. This is your Ruby Flask. So your Ruby Flask, no matter what the secondary rolls, I got armor, which is the best in slot you can get for this. I highly recommend you go for armor, but what's most important is the 25% increased effect, as the 25% increased effect stacked with your belt, stacked with your passive points on your tree that's aiding in flasks, will give you a big boost in your total max capped resistances. If I take this flask off, you can see it drops significantly. This flask is huge, guys, so make sure you roll the flask with 25% increased effect, and try to get T2 armor or above for max armor and max fizz damage reduction. And last but not least, you can replace this with whatever you like. I like to use a Quicksilver to go fast with curse immunity, and you can also do, reduce effective curses, which pretty much makes you curse immune with all the passive notes on the tree that you're getting from Pathfinder, plus the belt. And yeah, You could replace this with a phasing flask that gives you spell suppression if you're not spell suppressed capped, because then you can run through enemies no problem. But I like the speed, guys. Everybody likes to go zoomy in PO. All right, now we're at the rings. So for the first ring, probably one of the most important, you want to get something with high mana, or sorry, high life and low negative lightning resistance. So I picked this up for around 2 div. You can craft this yourself if you'd like using the reflection mist. I wouldn't recommend unless you have a really big budget. You could just buy something off trade that doesn't have too many detrimental mods, but has 2 good beneficial mods. So in this case, I have the max life, a little bit of max mana, and the minus 72 lightning res. You could definitely get it lower than this, but it was on a chaos res base, which helps me chaos res cap, so I was happy. And 100 minus 15 int does nothing to our build, as we use a timeless jewel that allows us to not need any types of attributes. So we have 0 attribute requirements. So as you can see, I have 0 int on screen right now, and so it pretty much has no detriments to my build. The next is a bone ring. I actually use this on my other character, my holy relic character that I was playing a little bit earlier in the league, and this one is amazing. So how you would craft this is very simple. You would buy a fractured base with T1 or T2 max life. I settled for T2 here, and you would just fossil craft. I just used the minion fossil craft until I hit something I was happy with, and it didn't take long. I hit tier 1 damage, tier 1 max life, tier 2 attack and cast speed, and the LE res. So the LE res is not too important, you could live without it, but I would say the damage is a must, and attack and cast speed is a must, because attack and cast speed just allows your Spectres to shoot so much quicker. And as you're going to see throughout the whole build, we're going to be stacking attack and cast speed a lot for these guys. So I would roll those 2. Max life is also important, and then you want to make sure you have open prefix in order to craft minus total mana cost of skills. All right, now let's hop into the gloves. So for gloves, I like to use runic gloves because we're stacking ward with the shields. I figured why not use runic gloves in order to help us. You could, if you wanted to, use armor gloves in order to try to cap your armor to 90% fizz damage reduction. I wanted runic, so that's what I went with. And these are very, very simple to craft. All you need to do is buy a runic gauntlet pair of gloves, level 85 or above. I bought 86. And what you want to do is just spam essences. So specifically, I actually bulk sold all my essences yesterday, but I did actually keep one just to show you the one I want to use. If you can see my essences, I have none anymore. I sold all of them for about 62 divines last night, and yeah, so I have none left. So what you want to do is take a deafening essence of hatred, and you want to spam these gloves until you hit a second T1 resistance. It could be fire or it could be lightning. If it's lightning, you want to go to harvest, and we can go to the base now just so I can show you guys really quick. Oh, I don't have my awakener trade up, so we'll go to the base real quick, and you could just put the gloves in and do lightning to fire. So you can do lightning to fire and easily convert it. So if you roll a second T1, you want to, with an open suffix, you want to re-roll and then keep that. You don't need the minions recover. I like it because, like I said, the whole build revolves around your minions, so you want to keep them alive as much as possible. Some people settle for spell suppression. If you hit spell suppression, I would also keep that at tier 2 or tier 1. Is also a very good, or you can settle for chaos res if you're lacking in the chaos res department, and instead on your prefixes you could craft minion damage, which I see a lot of other people do also, but I like the minions recover, and that's what I kept. So now that suffixes are done, because we have 2 T1s and then we have the minion craft, what we want to do is, if we have shitty prefixes, we would actually slam it with a Searing Exarch orb, and then we would reroll with the Chaos Orb. We would reroll with the exotic Eldritch Chaos Orb, which if Searing Exarch is dominant, it'll reroll the prefixes until you hit either life or ward or something that you're happy with. So I actually hit the T4 life, and then I slammed with the Exalted Orb, and I actually hit the T1 ward, and I slammed again with the increased ward, and I settled. You could go for something better than this, T1 life, T1 hybrid ward, but this was good enough for me. And then after that, you want to craft your implicits, which is going to be minion damage and spell suppression in order to get spell suppress capped. These are the best 2 in slot because there's not really much for minions when it comes to Eater and Exarch mods. So this is the best you're going to get. Next is probably the second hardest piece of gear to craft, and that's probably what you're going to spend a bigger amount of your budget on, and it is the boots. So I settled for 2-tone boots because when I was crafting this build together, I didn't know where my res cap would be sitting at, how much res I have, and I'd rather be on the safe side than craft a nice pair of runic boots, which I see a lot of people are doing, or chaos boots, and then I don't have enough to cap my basic fire and cold res. So I settled on 2-tone boots, and I have them with both elevated maximum fire resistance and +2 levels of all race spectre gems. So we're going to craft this together, guys. In case you're new to crafting, I know this could sound confusing, so let's head over to Craft of Exile and let's make this together. Alright guys, so let's talk about the booties. So the boots, like I said, are going to be a little bit of an expensive but important part of your build. So what you want to do is to make sure that you get one of your bases with the mod already on it. So because we want 2-tone boots, and because 2-tone boots are dirt cheap and it's relatively easy to roll the max fire res on it, we would settle for these for 19C and we would buy them. We would take them into our crafting bench, aka harvest crafting, and we would constantly do reforge fire until eventually we hit fire +2 to max fire res. It does happen, it does take a while, it's a bit more of a rare mod. I think I went through about 5,000 6,000 juice until I hit the +2 to all fire res, but that's less than a div, and trust me, it's the cheapest option you can do in order to hit +2. So let's say, for example, eventually I hit it. Let me just craft it on just so you guys can see and we don't have to wait here forever. So fire res is going to be a suffix. We'll go to Crusader and maximum fire res T1. Boom. So we have +2 fire res. In this case, we actually have the perfect chance because we also have a second Crusader mod. But let's say we didn't have this. Let's say, for example, we only rolled +2. In order to elevate this to +3, we're going to need a secondary Crusader mod. So what you want to do here, guys, is as long as you have an open prefix, which is perfect in this situation. If you did not, say we had full prefixes and an open suffix, we would do prefix to suffix craft using the beastcraft, which is about 10C. Super simple. As you see, beast crafting here, we could just do prefix to suffix, suffix to prefix. These are very simple and easy to get. And let's say we ended up on this. We would go to our crafting bench, we would craft prefixes, and we would do suffixes cannot be changed. So let's go on to craft. I know crafting can seem a little complicated in the beginning, but it really is simple and it saves you so much money in the long run. So suffixes cannot be changed. We would go to harvest craft and then we would reforge fizz. So reforge fizz almost guarantees us every time that we hit this mod right here, which is gain blah 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 of physical damage as extra lightning damage. So as you see, I'll do it again. I hit again, as you could see, 3 for 3. So it's almost guaranteed to hit that mod, as it's the only suffix, the physical roll you can hit, I believe, on this pair of boots. So it hits every single time, and it allows us to actually reroll. So there's some rare cases where you can actually hit a third Crusader mod. You have to make sure there's only 2 Crusader mods. I'm trying to hit a third just to show you, but like I said, it's very rare. But say, for example, you did hit a third Crusader mod, you would have to annul it off because you only want 2. So in this case, we have fire res, we have the physical damage as extra lightning, a second Crusader mod. Now we would go to our orb of dominance and we would pray that we hit the fire res to elevate. So let's hit it. And it upgraded our fire res, and now our boots are done for this pair and we're settled. So this 2-tone boots are complete, and we just saved ourselves like 15 div from just buying it outright with maximum fire res, let alone finding it on the base that you want. So in a world where, let's say, we hit the fizz upgrade, which happened to me when I was actually crafting my boots. What you would do is you would just restart. You'd go back to harvest crafting. You would keep reforging fire until you eventually hit the +2 fire res again. You would do suffixes cannot be changed, reforge fizz, and then you would try to slam once again. Like I said, this part's a little expensive. These boots will probably cost you about 20 to 30, 20, 25 div, depending on your luck. You could get lucky like I did, but it's going to be a little expensive. For the second pair of boots, I highly just recommend you buying them outright on PoE trade, just already elevated, because to hit the Spectre gem is only a minion skill, so we can't really reforge anything on the harvest craft. We're gonna have to spam with fossils, and then we're gonna have to do a second one. So I just highly recommend saving your time, saving your energy, and just buying outright any pair of boots 10 div with the +2 elevated Spectre gems. It'll just save you a lot of time, energy, and honestly 10 div is not too bad. It starts to go up 10, 12, 15. If we get to 15 div, this one actually has 2, so you want to be careful you don't buy with 2, because then we could be screwed here. You want to make sure you only get 1, and you want to make sure you look at the base, guys. If you see here, this one is already slammed. He already slammed this Awakener Orbis, so it's Shaper and Elder. It wouldn't work. You want to make sure you only have Elder on both sides. So Elder, 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 Elder. So if you guys didn't want to buy it and you want to see how to craft it, I guess I could show you. Alright guys, so for the second pair of boots, we would get them Elder base, eye level 85 preferably, and what we would do is just constantly spam bound fossils with the singular fossil craft. You don't need more than one, you just use the basic single one, and we spam. So it only took me actually about 20 tries in order to hit +1 Spectres and Shocked Grounds, which is pretty awesome to hit it like this. But let's say for example you didn't hit the Shocked Grounds, you only hit the raised Spectres. So we have 2 suffixes, 2 prefixes. What do we do, guys? Remember what I taught you in the last one? We do crafting, crafted, we bench, suffixes cannot be changed because we don't want to lose that craft, and then we would go on to harvest craft and we would do reforge lightning. Boom. And we would hit Shocked Ground. This one we actually didn't hit it because it's not guaranteed like the last one. That's why I said it's a little bit more annoying. So in that case, what we would do is we would have to do craft again, suffixes cannot be changed, go back, reforge lightning, and we hit it. So it's not the highest odds to hit, but it's not the lowest either. As you can see, that was 2 out of 3, 3 out of 3, or 3 out of 4. Most of the time, if you don't hit it, you're a little unlucky. So Shocked Grounds done, and then we would go on to our Orb of Dominance and pray that we hit the +2 level of all raised Spectre gems. Boom. In this case we did. So actually, maybe I was wrong. Maybe you did save a little bit of money in that case when it comes to that craft. It depends how lucky you get with your fossil craft and how lucky you get with your also your Orb of Dominance, because once again, if we were to have missed that, for example, and we hit unaffected by shock and we raised it, we would have to restart by going back, fossil spamming, which who knows how long it could take. Like I said, I hit it in about 20. It could take longer, it could be faster. Oh, I just hit it there. Okay, and then we would have to go back onto suffixes cannot be changed, and then we would do once again reforge lightning. We hit it, then we would try to elevate again, boom, and we hit on that time. So it depends on your luck. Like I said, it still is a bit easier to just buy it outright for 10 div if 10 div is the price. If it starts going up, like you guys see 12, 14, yeah, you could try your luck instead. But because Orb of Dominance isn't the cheapest this league, as you guys, I'm going to show you guys right now, Orb of Dominance. Yeah, oh wow, it actually went up a lot. It's actually 4 div, so every time you miss, it's another 4 div, plus suffixes cannot be changed is 2 div. So I still would recommend buying it for 10 div if you can outright, because when I bought my Orb of Dominance, they're actually 2.5 div, so they're actually skyrocketing in price. I guess more people are crafting now when it comes to these types of elevated builds, so I would personally recommend just buying it outright level 2. if you can. If not, then now you have the craft to do it. Then what we would do is we would grab an Awakener's Orb and we would slam the 2 items together. After that, if we go back into game, you can see I actually hit it with a lucky suffix. So no matter what you get for suffixes, you kind of have to keep. There's nothing you can do about it. So I actually hit fire res on mine. I changed it to cold res. I got lucky. You could hit something unlucky like block or something useless. If you do, it's okay. It's not the end of the world because you have the 2 most important components. And I actually hit 25% movement speed on mine. So I just crafted maximum life and I called it a day. But if you didn't hit a movement speed and you wanted one, you would do suffixes cannot be changed, and then you would veiled chaos orb. I don't have any right now. You would veiled chaos orb, and then you would craft on mana if you had that open prefix, and then you would unveil, and it's like a 95% chance to get a movement speed. You'd actually get 30, which is better than what I have, and then you could craft on life afterwards. So it's very simple to get the movement speed. It is expensive because veiled orbs are so expensive this league, and they've been expensive ever since they became an orb, and it sucks, but that's life. So now that boots are out of the way, the second hardest piece of gear, let's jump into the final piece of gear, which is the wand. The wand is gonna be where you spend most of your money, and this is definitely not the wand that you want to go for. I will post on screen a more realistic wand. Let me actually pull it up. I took a screenshot. So this is the actual wand that I used for the first 2 days. I flat out bought this for 18 div, which is honestly a great price for the value that it had. It probably would be more expensive earlier on in the league, but at this point I guess he just wanted to get rid of it. But I'm going to teach you guys how to craft it yourself and the best way to craft it. So the best thing you could do for yourself would be to get a base like this guy's Fractured, with minions have 21% increased attack and cast speed, but you want to make sure the item is between item level 78 and 82. The reason for that is because the mod pool is a lot smaller between those ranges, so to roll the +1 all spells on the +1 minion is a lot more common. If you were to go above 82 or below 78, it becomes significantly more diluted and way, well, if you go underneath 78, you can hit the +1 to all spell skill gems, and if you go above 82, the pool becomes so diluted, the chances of you hitting it shrink like crazy. So the best bet would be to get the +1 minions have attack and cast speed, but unfortunately that is not a cheap fracture to have on that type of base. So minions, well, I'll show you guys right now. Minions have increased attack and cast speed. Increased attack and cast speed. We're gonna do Fractured, and as you guys can see, if we do it on the Covenant wand, it's the only one that it's gonna pop on. Yes, okay. It's not too bad, but once again, level 77, level 85. If we search between item level 78 and max item level 82, you're gonna see, oh, whoa, never mind, guys. You can actually get some pretty decent ones. I mean, this is tier 3, which I would settle for tier 3. Let's go on to tier 2s. Not many T2s. 12 div for this. I would actually buy this one outright. This one is actually, no, it has spell damage. You don't want that. But yeah, 4C for a tier 3 wouldn't be bad. You definitely would want tier 2 and above, like I said, because we're stacking attack and cast speed. But honestly, for this price, this is not bad at all. But let's say, for example, you didn't want tier 3. You wanted tier 2 and above, and you wanted to craft the wand from scratch. So what we would do is, let's go on to Craft of Exile so I can show you guys exactly step by step how to do it. So we're going to get a wand. One-hand weapon. We're going to go for a Covenant wand. We're going to go for, of course, the Covenant, and we're going to make it, let's say, item level 78. All right, 20 quality with no influence on it. So how are we going to craft this? So let's say it's a rare wand. We're going to fossil craft. So the 3 fossils we are going to be using is the corroded fossil, the metallic fossil, and the shuddering fossil. So it is about a 1 in 60, 1 in 70 to hit +1/+1. As you can see here, we actually kind of got close and we hit +1 spell but +1 chaos, so we're gonna keep going. This is a pain in the arse. Wow, we hit it in 5. Don't expect this to happen, my friends, because it doesn't happen that often. But and we hit it with tier 6 minion damage, which is actually pretty insane. So, and we have tier 3 attack and cast speed. So what we're gonna do here, guys, is we're going to have to annul. This is where it could get expensive. So we're gonna annul. We're gonna hope to hit any suffix, even if it's the minion attack and cast speed. We're gonna pray that we hit a suffix, and we didn't. So in this case, we would have to keep fossil crafting, fossil spamming until we hit this setup again. Most of the time, unfortunately, you're going to hit it with 6 mods and you're going to have to annul. So let's annul again. We hit the damage. We could suffice with this, but we want to keep that damage, so we're going to annul again. We hit damage. Like I said, guys, this is the part where it gets cringy. All right, so this case is probably one of the best cases. We hit a suffix, and we actually didn't hit the minions have increased attack and cast rate. So we can settle here and just craft on the craft that I put on mine, which isn't necessary, but it is for the version that I'm playing. So we'll do suffixes, and I like to craft on, oh, I'm blind, guys, it's down here. So we would craft on right here, trigger socket spell and use a skill. This is mandatory for the version I'm playing because it'll trigger our offerings for us, and it'll trigger my sniper's mark without me having to do anything, just by literally using a shield charge, which is fantastic. So let's say, for example, we'll go back. Let's say, for example, you annulled the attack and cast speed instead, and of course you want that to be a mod, right? So let's say you annulled the attack and cast speed. What we would do here is we would go and we would do craft, we would do prefixes cannot be changed, okay, and we would do harvest craft, reforge, cast. So unfortunately we can hit a lot of different mods. It doesn't guarantee that we hit minions. So as you see here, we hit tier 6 minions, which is pretty bad. You want to keep going. So we would again craft on prefixes cannot be changed, then we would spam chaos, we hit cast speed. This is where I say it gets a little bit expensive, so buying it with the pre-fractured, even if it is 420, even if it is tier 3 for 4C, honestly that's definitely worth it, because then you don't have to really worry because it'll be fractured, so no matter what you can't hit it off. But here we go, we hit T3 on the 3rd try, and then from there we would just craft on socketed. Oops, don't do that, don't chaos orbit. Then we would craft on the socketed, and because we had an open suffix, we could just exalt slam and hope we hit something useful. Cold res would actually be useful here, that wouldn't be useful, and you know, lightning damage would be useful. So if we hit another minion skill, it would be awesome, but if not, still that would be fantastic. But still, that's how you craft it. So remember, item level 78 to 82 is your goal, and you want to get fractured minion attack and cast speed. Honestly, I would settle for tier 3 for 4C. I don't know if this guy will even answer, but that's a fantastic base to craft on. Usually they'll run you up, yeah, like I said, tier 5. You won't really find it between these eye levels. When I checked last, there was only like tier 6, tier 7, so I guess this is a new one. So if you didn't end up having this fracture, you couldn't get it early, this is how you do it without the fracture craft. It is a little more expensive for sure, but it's definitely doable, as you can see. My wand, though, for example, in game, if I show you guys, is a little different. So I actually sold that one, and I wanted to put a lot of budget into my builds because it was my final build of the league. I decided I want to throw in money at it. So I went for the craft, minions are aggressive. So what this does is it allows minions to target enemies from a farther range, because usually minions will attack them when you're near them, but then when you move, they'll run towards you. I wanted my minions to be more aggressive, as you guys can see, and it's the best install mod you can have. So how do you get this? You cannot fossil craft, you cannot harvest craft. This mod specifically only comes from Delve, and it is so expensive this league. It's ridiculous. So let me go back onto trade and show you guys exactly how expensive this mod is. Every other league from the videos I've watched, it's dirt cheap. It's like 10C. This league, 8 div, 11 div, 11 div, and this is non-fractured, 12 div, 14 div. So let's see how much it would cost fractured. 60 div, 69 div, 85 div. This one's actually pretty damn good. This one's actually finished, so this one you would be good with. 85 div, guys. 85 div for a perfect wand. So this is actually not a bad option at all. But so what I did for mine was I actually crafted it myself. So I'll show you guys how I did it, even though it is very expensive. Only go for this if you're just trying to dump all your money, because this cost me so much. Probably I spent over 100 divine on this, and I probably could have settled for that 85 div one and probably had a better one, but it's all good. I like to craft. That's who I am. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. So let's say, for example, you bought this base with minions are aggressive. What you would have to do is you would have to use a fracturing shard or fracturing orb in order to slam the 1 and 4. So you want to buy one like this that has 4 mods on it in order to go for that the highest odds of hitting. But if we go back in, when I did mine, I bought my one for 8 div. It had 4 mods on it. What did I do? I fracturing orbed it. Did I hit? No, I actually bricked it. I actually hit the wrong mod. So what happens when you hit the wrong mod? A lot of people think that the wand is useless, it's dead. But thankfully this league, thanks to Recombinators, I was able to buy a Covenant wand, eye level 83, and I've merged them together, and thank God the minions are aggressive was saved. And there was no more fracture on the mod. So I had a 4 mod wand again with minions are aggressive. So I bought another fracturing ward for 5.5 divines, and I slammed. And I missed again. So I did the same thing. I bought an eye level 83 Covenant wand, and I fused them together. And thank God the minions are aggressive were saved. And then I fracturing orbed again for the 3rd time, and thankfully on the 3rd time I hit the minions are aggressive mod. And then from then on I went to craft, and just like the crafting I showed you guys, I went through so many powerful chaotic resonators, triples. I probably went through 20 div worth of fossils, because like I said, my wand is eye level 83, not 82, it's 83. And because of that, the mod pool is so much bigger. So it's around a 1 in 151. I actually did a test on Crafted Exile, and out of 1,000 fossil slams, only 7 were successful, which is insane. So thankfully I actually hit it once in about 70, and I annulled, and I actually didn't hit I actually hit the minions at increased attack and cast speed. I didn't hit a prefix, so I was happy. So what I did was I went to my crafting bench, I did prefixes cannot be changed, and I harvest crafted, and I hit tier 7 minions have attack and cast speed, which I couldn't settle for. So I did prefixes cannot be changed, reforge cast speed, I hit T2 cast speed, then I hit T1 cast speed, and then on the 4th attempt I hit full suffixes. Somehow I hit cast speed and global crit multi, and because of that I had to annul, and I bricked it, and I hit the +1 all spells, and I was so upset. I was so pissed off, so I had to start again, and I went through maybe about 150 of them again, and I hit the +1, and I had to annul, and I hit a prefix again. I hit the +1 minions, so I had to start again. And honestly, I got to a point where I ended up hitting this just the way you see it, except I had an extra suffix. I hit the +1 all spells, which is more important than the minions. And then I hit T3 minion damage and T1 hybrid. So you know what? I wanted to play the damn build. I used a annulment orb. I actually hit a suffix annul, and I did prefixes cannot be changed, reforge attack and cast, and I reforge cast, and I hit T2 minions, and I settled. So of course it would be better if I had +1 minions. The build would be a little stronger, but for me, I was just happy and I wanted to play it. And then after you're done that with your minions, you want to go to the runic craft, and you want to craft on minion damage. It's the best install you can get, and it's the cheapest, but because it's my end game build and I want it to be zoomy, I crafted the Haunted by Tormented Spirit mod, which is about 100 divines to craft. It is not necessary, but because this craft is going to eventually become a legacy item, I wanted to just, you know, have it in my inventory as like I just wanted to have it. So now I have 2 items with this. I have my Archmage wand with Tormented Spirits, and I have this with Tormented Spirits, because in a year in Standard, these are gonna be sick to look back at. I'm gonna put this in my trophy case. And actually, let me just show you guys my trophy case since we're nearing the end of the video. I have the Venter's Gambler Gold Ring with 2 mods. I actually hit this during Affliction League, and it was insane. And the rest are just like a mirrored item, and these are mid, but this one's insane. So let's jump into the final part of the build, guys. The passive tree. So the jewels for this, there's actually a decent amount of jewels that you need in order for this build to function to its best. Let's start off with the mandatory ones. We need to have an Elegant Hubris with Caspero Dominant in order to have Supreme Ostentation. That's how we ignore all attribute requirements, and that is huge for this build because we don't need to worry about attributes, and we could tattoo our whole build, which is necessary. So this is most important. You would have to use the Timeless Jewel Calculator to find the best in slot for this. I actually found one with minion damage, fire res, and chaos res for about 3 divines. This actually has another fire res, but I took it off as I didn't need it because I was capped already. And I like to use the Jewel Impossible Escape with Solificism. That's what I saw in the original video, and it allocates this node, and we can allocate around it without having to connect the tree. This is only 1 divine when I bought it, and this was about 3 divines. So pretty simple, straightforward here. The next jewel we're going to have is the Green Nightmare. The reason why we use this is it helps us get spell suppress capped, and that in turn will, help us not die. So the line that says cold resistance or element resistance in radius also grants spell suppression at 70% of its value. Because we're going to tattoo all these with cold to max out our cold res, we get 4% from each node. So this is about 24% spell suppression for free. For something we would already be doing, because we need to use the cold resistance tattoos in order to max cold res, and we're getting a free 24%, and it is fantastic. So 24% spell suppress cap from here, and then we have another spell suppression on the tree here and a little more up here to get us max capped. Next jewel we're going to be talking about is such a huge one, Unending Hunger. What this does is it gives your minions 50% chance to gain Soul Eater for 20 seconds on kill. Soul Eater, guys, is that mod that everybody hates, that makes your minions, that makes enemies huge, beefy, tanky, and so annoying. It is one of the best jewels. You'll see in the gameplay that it just makes them massive, and honestly, it's one of the best in slots. But don't make the mistake I did of tattooing your intelligence nodes here, because it won't work. You need at least 40 int in radius, and if you tattoo them, they don't count. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So make sure you keep these 4 untattooed, because in the video I watched, he had them tattooed, and then I didn't realize till a day later that I wasn't actually getting the Soul Eater buff, and it's the whole point of this gem. So definitely make sure you don't. Hey guys, I quickly forgot to mention when I was editing the video about probably the most important jewel in the whole build, Melding of the Flesh. This is how you get your res capped, or your res to 90% spell cap, because it mimics the highest resistance. Because we're working on fire, our cold wouldn't be able to get to 90 without this jewel. So I forgot Melding of the Flesh, very important. You want to go for one with -4 to all maximum mana, and the all elements resistance doesn't matter, because yes, the higher it goes, it's harder to cap your cold, but the higher it goes, the lower your lightning goes, which is also better for damage. So it's a give and take, but make sure you go for -4. Tattoo these. Next, we're going to talk about these two jewels down here, Quickening Covenants and Fortress Covenants. These two are amazing to keep your minions alive and to give them some damage. This one gives them attack, cast speed, and spell suppression, and this one gives them damage and block chance. The reason why we put them on a large cluster away from the tree is because they have the line that says minions have reduced movement speed, minions take 20% increased damage. What this does is, if we were to put this, for example, up here, it would make every single large node minions take 20% increased damage, and we would lose out on, for example, 16% mana reservation. We wouldn't even be able to run our full auras if it wasn't for if it was for this jewel. I actually had that in the beginning, and I couldn't understand why I didn't have enough mana, and it was because he put it here, and it kind of bricks your build. So I would put it down here away from the rest of the tree. In any large cluster it works. As you can see, it says jewel radius will will not function in sockets added by a cluster jewel. So it pretty much negates all the negative effects. The next one I have is a Storm Shroud to give us ailment immunity. The way we do that is because we're getting about 20% ailment immunity from the tree right here. So we have 12 and 8, that's 20. How do we get to the other 80? Well, we use Storm Shroud, and Storm Shroud means modifiers to chance to avoid shock apply to elemental ailments, and we have two large ghastly eye jewels, two ghastly eye jewels on our helmet that give us 48 and 45. You just need 40 and 40. But these are the ones I found for about a div each, and I was more than happy with them. So max life, minions attack and cast speed, and minions deal lightning damage. So these are mandatory. You need shock avoidance just to be ailment immune. If you don't care for that and you want to be a little bit more risky, you don't need that. You can go for more damage, but I rather have my character tank a little harder since my minions are already tanky. And then the other two ghastly eye jewels are very similar. A little bit of chaos res for my specters, and some attack and cast speed, and some all res. So very straightforward. These are very cheap to buy. They won't cost you more than a div. And last but not least, we have the cluster jewels, which are this is the one I originally started off with. You want to go for one with 35% increased effect and attack and cast speed, and the other two mods are up to you to decide, or whatever you settle on. This one is only 9 passives. You would prefer 12, but because I had this extra, I went with the double cluster setup. And you want to make sure for your medium cluster you run a 4 passive or 5 passive, doesn't matter, with Dread March or Feasting Fiends, sorry, because Feasting Fiends gives your minions life leech, and they die more often without this. So this is a huge node. Make sure you have at least one of these. 2 would be preferable. If I get a second large, when I level up next, I'm actually going to replace this medium cluster megalomaniac with a second version of this in order to get another jewel socket and to get another feasting fiend. I also have it with Dread March, which gives you chaos res, fizz damage reduction, movement speed, and max life. So this one is not necessary. My second large cluster is down here. This one is probably the best in slot you could get. It's fractured increased effect, which I fractured myself. It cost me about 25 divines because I missed 5 times with the fracturing orbs, but you can buy this outright for about 28 div at the moment with the T1 increased effect on a 12 passive, so it's your call. And then I rolled it with attack and cast speed, and then I double exalt slammed and got lucky and hit max life and chaos res. This goes for about 60 div if you were to buy it like this, and you'd want to fill it all up, but I need to get a couple more passive points, and you put your last 2 jewels here. The rest is straightforward on the tree. It's a lot of block chance, max life nodes, and all of our tattoos are cold resistance until we get maxed. When we use life recovery from Flasks on every other dex node that we can have, until, like I said, we get max cold. Then we use Flask life recovery, which is huge for our build. And if you wanted to, on all your int nodes, you could use minions have 5% increase life, guys. So that's pretty much straightforward. If you didn't want to use a second large cluster and you wanted to focus more on surviving, you could use 7 points to get up here and take lethal shade, which will help with those mana siphoners that I told you about in the beginning of the video, because those damn mana siphoners drain you, and this will help you survive a little longer. It'll probably give you an extra 1 to 2 seconds before you die, so you can shield charge or dash out of there, whatever you want. And you could go up here and go for the chaos res on the minions to give them some more survivability, which is what I had originally, but then I opted for the second large cluster jewel. So that pretty much is the build, guys. The jewels are as followed. On your main body armor, which is your main Spectre setup, you have raised Spectres, level 21, preferably returning Proj. Awaken minion damage, which is a must because it gives you +1 to all minion spell skill gems. Pierce support, Awaken control destruction, which is also huge because the Awaken gives you just all Awaken gems gives you such a nice boost. Plus these are dirt cheap. And Awaken Spell Echo. This is the only one that's not necessary. You can just use regular Spell Echo because this is about 60 div. So I'll just go for regular Spell Echo for a div. 2120 is perfect, more than enough. On the shield, that's where we have our Enlighten with our Purity of Fire for the +2 and the Determination for more armor. Straightforward. On the gloves, we're going to use automation support with Molten Shell and Convocation, so that my minions will always resummon on their own, and we'll always just be having our Molten Shell up when it's up. You don't have to worry about it. It's such an amazing gem. I love automation. And on our empty socket, we have Flame Dash, just for obstacles that our shield charge cannot get around. And then on the boots, Tempest Shield plus Petrified Blood for our 2 other auras. Faster attacks with shield charge on the other 2 sockets. And last but not least, on our wand, we do Life Tap with Sniper's Mark with Flesh Offering, so that when there's a pack of mobs, we will shield charge. Our wand's craft will trigger a socketed gem when we use the skill, which is going to be our shield charge. It'll proc Sniper's Mark on the enemy, and it'll proc Flesh Offering automatically for us, and it'll not cost any mana. It'll cost us our life, and it's amazing to always have your offerings up, because offerings give you such a big boost. They give my minions movement speed, cast speed, and attack speed, so why wouldn't you want that? And it's all automated, which is why I love it. And last but not least, the Spectres. How do we get these defiled Spectres? These are only found in T17 maps. So what you could do, you can go to trade global chat, either 6666, so 4 6s, or 888, and say looking for defiled Spectres, will tip. And sometimes there's some good Samaritans that will actually answer to you and give them to you, and go to their hideout. They'll cast Desecrate, and then you just spawn them yourself, or you cast Desecrate yourself and copy their minions. Usually you just want to spawn them there, spawn 1 or 2, then you can go back to your hideout, get your own Desecrate, and spawn them yourself. But for me, nobody answered, so what I did was I switched to my Hierophant Archmage. I went into a T17 map, I cleared it, I found them on the ground, I switched characters, and I just spawned them myself, guys. And for the 8th minion, I like to use a perfect Spirit Fortune, because this gives grants additional lightning damage, so it gives you Wrath Aura, and it gives you your lightning damage is lucky, which means it'll reroll twice and go for the higher hits, which is fantastic, just for more damage. He doesn't die that often. Honestly, I've only had these guys die very rarely, and it's only about 80 seats to replace, so really can't go wrong. Or you could just run 8 of these guys for a little bit more damage, or a little bit more clear speed, but I really like the perfect Spirit of Fortune. So that is my recommendation. Hope you guys enjoyed this build guide. To end off, I know it's been long, but I really wanted to explain everything to you. I hope you liked the detailed breakdown. And to end off this video, I'm going to end off with the Feared for my 40 for 40 challenge, to show you guys a live showcase of this build. We're going to be doing the Feared together, 71%, which will actually give me the final challenge I need in order to be done with the league, or to have my 40 for 40. So we're going to open it up, and we're going to do it live together, homies. So let's go do the Feared with this build and showcase what these Spectres have to offer. So I'm just going to wait for my this to be charged to see how it is. Shaper is honestly the most annoying, and so is Atziri. So we'll do Shaper and Atziri if we can. And here we go. Oh, well, Atziri's right here. Elder's also kind of cancer, but so we're going to shield charge, and now we cast our mark right there. As you can see, oh, we're not even using our life flask. Okay, so Atziri is dead. Oh my god, I can't even see the screen right now. So now we're in the middle. Yeah, as you can see, you really just run around, shield charge a bit so you can have your things procced, and then let your just minions do damage. Is it a little bit eye cancer? It definitely is. And we died. Like I said, Shaper is probably the only one that can kill us outright. But that's fine. That's fine, man. That's fine. It happens. It happens. No build is perfect. Every build has its downsides. I mean, there are some perfect builds, but overall, this build can do almost all content in the game. And if it's for farming specifically, it is so fun, because you really don't have to do much. You just shield charge around the map a bit. And yeah, like I said, this is a bad showcase because unfortunately Shaper's just molesting us right now, so we should go for him. Damn, Shaper beam. Yeah, gaze into the abyss. And there we go, guys. Pretty straightforward. I know I died a few times. Like I said, those ailments really get you hard, but there's ways around it. And we get dog shit loot as we always do. Also in boss rooms, for some reason your minions spawn so many side minions that you just constantly always have enough minions to have your flesh offering going. Look how much garbage is on the screen right now. But yeah, guys, that is the Spectre build. I hope you enjoyed my first video. I know it wasn't perfect, but I'll only get better at it. So if you do enjoy, please subscribe. We are finally 40 for 40 for Settlers League, and I couldn't be happier. If you guys want to see my showcase of my Archmage build that I've been playing, and you guys want me to show you how I crafted all my gear for that build, let me know, and I can easily make another video similar to this to show you guys how to craft all the gear and save you a bit of money, because I know I made most of my money this league actually from selling gear from this build. I crafted my own gloves, I crafted my own wand, and I actually had boots crafted too that I sold for 30 div earlier before I changed to the frenzy stacking version. But let me know, guys, and I would love to showcase for you this as well. Thank you so much for watching. It's been your boy Ray, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.